What should it be? Hey, and Jeff Fromfalker, if you're out there listening, I made it. I wasn't paying attention to the clock.
Sound a little inside.
Jeff is my new associate, so she must have been at the office running late.
Oh, okay.
Well, I wasn't paying attention to the clock. So.
No, that's okay. Radio station doesn't operate by the clock, does it, Greg? 9:30 show can be 9:40, 9:45,
well,
anytime.
It doesn't really start at 9:30. The show doesn't really start at 9:30.
A couple minutes after.
Yeah. So I was on time.
We're flexible. We are flexible.
All right, very good.
And you know, I was thinking though, what about having Jeff Fromfalker come on and talk about landlord-tenant? He's a good attorney. He's really aggressive on these collections. And creative too.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Sure, great idea.
Okay. There you go. We'll have him in one of the first shows in January, maybe. So get prepared, Jeff, because I know you're listening. Any shout-outs today? Because you were at the country club this morning for coffee instead of Starbucks.
I was, just because I was running late as well. So I stopped by there and had a cup of coffee. But no shout-outs.
Did you have a board of directors meeting then out there?
No, there wasn't a soul out there.
Oh. No golfers.
Negative.
Snowshoers. I bought everyone in our family snowshoes for Christmas.
Wow.
How perfect was that?
Sweet.
I know.
Timely.
And they're all excited about it.
They at least professed excitement.
Yeah.
I don't know. Jackie, are you excited?
I already gotten texts about it this morning, so.
So there you go. They're texting each other.
Wow.
Cheap
Exciting.
entertainment.
What's the subject this morning, dear?
So let's talk about the mistakes buyers make.
You're asking me again. Okay, go for it.
This is our last show of the year. You got to make it dynamic.
Yeah. Award-winning.
Exactly.
Go for
All right.
it.
So impulse buying. I don't know if attorney. You know, you are a person other than just an attorney.
Not really.
I would say lately that's probably more accurate than you think.
No, I know it's accurate. Okay.
So impulse buying. Buyers should not just fall in love with a house without doing their research.
Okay.
Okay, there may be a better house out there for them. Let's get our ducks in a row before we pick the house. Let's make sure we're pre-approved. Know what you're looking for. Is it a 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, ranch, 2-story, city, outside the city, big lot, little lot? Because there are impulse buyers out there. And especially in this market when we don't have enough listings.
What should you be looking for?
As impulse buying? Or
As any buyer.
well, it depends on the buyer. It's up to the buyer. They need to make their list of what it is they're looking for. And I will tell you, buyers always change that list as we start the...
Let me rephrase it. As Perry Mason once said. What problems should they be looking for?
Well, you want to make sure that you hire an inspector. Once you find the house, that's when you uncover problems, long-term problems. But every buyer has a different opinion on what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So, and they'll start with one set of what they want, and then as we start looking at homes, that will change. Somebody might say they want a ranch, and then they end up buying a 2-story.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
You keep looking at me. Do you want my
Input
on it? From a lawyer's perspective or a person's perspective? Let me give you the lawyer's perspective.
Oh, okay.
Lawyer's perspective is that impulse buying is the absolute worst thing you can do, because for negotiation purposes, you need to be able to walk away from a deal. If the seller is too difficult, wants too much money, is intransigent or adamant about particular things, and isn't willing to negotiate in good faith, the worst emotion you can have is, I must have this house no matter what. If that's your attitude, you might as well just kiss negotiation goodbye, accept whatever it is the seller's going to jam down your throat, and that's it. So the best negotiation tactic you can possibly have is the ability and willingness to walk away from the negotiating table. Absolutely. I don't care whether the issue is condition of the house, price,
Location.
earnest money deposits, contingencies, it doesn't matter, because if you are so in love with that property that you're willing to do anything to get it, your negotiation power is zilch.
There you go.
Should you just, even if you're in love with it, just fake it?
Yeah, that's also, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a negotiation strategy in which you present yourself as being less than enthusiastic about it, a cool front. Obviously, you go, you buy a car or something else.
Important.
Well, the realtor is very important in terms of creating that lack of a direct interface between the seller and the buyer, so the realtor can actually present it in a fashion which is more dispassionate,
right? More neutral,
more matter of fact, knowing that in the background the buyer is really hot to purchase this particular property, but that still doesn't obviate or eliminate the need for the buyer to understand that if you're buying an impulse, be prepared to accept whatever the seller's going to give
So
you.
it's really important. They also, if they fall in love with the house, they got to make sure they've got that right realtor that's going to hold them back from exposing that impulse buying.
Or that excitement.
Excitement,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, it's okay to be excited about it. I mean, you don't want them. I don't want people to buy a house they don't want to live in.
Right.
That's just stupid.
Right, and also, real estate agents are salespeople. Lawyers are not salespeople, at least in the context of someone buying a home. I'm not trying to sell that person the home, whereas a real estate agent is in the business of marketing and selling a particular property, with the understanding they've got a dual role there in terms of protecting the purchaser if you're a buyer's agent. So the roles are different, but yeah, you want to get the buyer to step back, think rationally about what it is that the buyer is doing. Because if the buyer buys on impulse, what you are doing or what the buyer's doing is creating work for me later on, after the fact, when they make that impulse buy, they find out it's not what they wanted it to be or they thought it would be. And so now they think they have a claim against the seller for whether it's a condition of the property or something else. Or they're disgruntled about something.
But Bill, if you are representing the guy that owns the hotel downtown, and they're trying to sell it, you would be a salesman?
No.
No, Bill would always be.
Not as a
Bill
lawyer.
is not
No,
a salesman.
I'm not a salesperson at
Whoa.
all. That's not my role. I'm the worst salesperson imaginable.
We had our house.
Well, now let's take you out of the mix, but a lawyer.
As a lawyer?
Yeah.
No, I'm no lawyer's job.
Representing the landowner, he's trying to get rid of the eyesore. He has suckers on the line.
No, that's not my role. My role as a lawyer is not to participate in inducing a buyer to purchase that pig in a poke, as it were. That's not my role. My role actually is to say to the seller, here are your duties under the law in terms of disclosure. Here are your duties with respect to environmental cleanup. Here are your duties with respect to whatever that aspect of the property may be. So that the seller then understands what the seller must do in connection with that sale. I don't have any duty to the buyer, other than to not make a misrepresentation.
Well, what if there is? Do
If
you
there's
have
what?
do you have a duty to the buyer?
If
there
I
is
know
a
the seller's making a misrepresentation,
Yeah.
absolutely. I have a duty immediately to step up and say to the seller, look, I'm refusing to represent you. Can't tell you off the top of my head if I have a duty, an obligation, or even if I may do it, to make a disclosure to a buyer, because my duty is to the seller. I have a fiduciary duty, which includes confidentiality. There's attorney-client privilege. So if a seller tells me something about the property and then misrepresents that fact to a prospective purchaser, I know that my immediate duty is to advise the seller, you need to correct that misrepresentation. Then if the seller refuses to correct that misrepresentation, I do know my duty is to withdraw from representing that seller. Whether or not I have an obligation to or even can make that same disclosure or disclose a misrepresentation to the purchaser, I'd want to take a look at the Michigan Rules of Professional Conduct. Without looking at them, my gut reaction is that no, I could not violate the confidentiality between the seller and myself Yeah, let's step back just for a minute. For realtors, it is different for realtors. You're not governed by the Michigan Rules of Professional Conduct. There's no
But we have a code of ethics.
There is a code of ethics, but the code of ethics says specifically that you shall not misrepresent material facts to a purchaser.
Right.
So it's
How
a different duty.
Is that enforceable in any way?
It
For
is
a realtor?
Yeah, it is enforceable against the realtor. That's provided not only in the Code of Ethics, it's also provided in the Michigan Occupational Code, which governs real estate agents, whether they're realtors or not. So yes, a cause of action arises under the statute. It arises under the common law if the realtor participates in a misrepresentation of fact, a material fact to a purchaser. And then there's the ability to file a grievance with the local association of realtors against the realtor. If a lawyer makes a misrepresentation of fact, same thing holds true. There's an obligate, or there is a liability under the common law for fraud. There's also the ability to file a grievance with the Attorney Grievance Commission. But let's jump back to the issue of where a seller tells me a fact and then refuses to disclose it to the purchaser, and if it's required by law to be disclosed, I'm going to have to withdraw from representing the seller. I'm not going to participate in a fraud with the seller against that buyer. No way, no
That's
how.
just stupid.
Yeah, not going to happen.
That's how we got into the mortgage debacle that we did.
My job is going to be to convince that seller, here's what the legal requirement is. You're going to fulfill that legal requirement. If you fail to do it, I will no longer represent you. But I'm trying to, in 40
Which
years...
segues us into the next one, working with professionals.
Go for it.
So, sometimes buyers shortcut without working with professionals.
What do you mean sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, they don't want to pay for, I always tell someone when they're doing a home inspection, do you recommend somebody? And I always say, hire someone you're willing to sue. Because if you have your dad, your uncle, your aunt, somebody do that home inspection and they make a mistake, you're probably not willing to sue them. So you want to hire someone you're willing to sue so that they're representing your best interest.
Well, you want somebody that's qualified to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You want somebody that you're paying a fee for, because if they do it for free, you probably can't sue them anyway, since it's not a contract supported by consideration.
Why are we suing?
Well, if there's a
turns out
mistake.
If
If they make a mistake.
Okay.
And
it happens.
quite frankly, in all my years, none of my clients have ever had to go after a home inspector, but there's other parts of the transaction, whether it's well and septic inspections, water inspections, termite, just getting legal advice. I love it when they hire an attorney that tells them how much the house is worth. The attorneys don't know the value.
You're saying that sarcastically, by the way. It didn't have a real sarcastic tone in your voice.
Well, no, there are attorneys out there that try to give it.
Yeah, but you said I love it when...
Oh, right. Okay. I think people knew that. Anyhow, attorneys are there to give legal opinion, not price opinion or value opinion.
Correct.
And it happens. And that's usually an attorney that doesn't specialize in real estate law, at least in our profession. I don't know when it comes to estates or any of that other stuff. And a lot of times people shortcut realtors for sale by owners. And they usually think they're going to save the commission, but they end up losing it in the price. And then they have to deal with all the transaction parts of the property, the sale. Any other thoughts?
No, and they also don't have the interface between the other parties, so that...
Seems like I don't see as many houses anymore.
For sale by owner?
Yes.
Am
I wrong?
No, I think that's true. We kind of look for them, and I can't say that I've seen many of them either. So, another mistake buyers make is not setting a limit. So, or getting pre-approved for a mortgage. You've got to go get pre-approved for a mortgage so you know what your limit is. If you start looking for a house and you think you want to spend $100,000, but you're only going to get approved for for 80, and you have $5,000 in the bank, don't spend more than $85,000. That's your limit. Thoughts?
I'm a lawyer. I have no thoughts on that one.
Really? I
Really,
thought you
I have
could
no
speak
thoughts
on
on
anything, whether you knew anything about it or not.
Legal topics.
Oh,
You
I
you
didn't
have me
know
here, You have
that.
me here for
Wow.
legal topics.
Wow.
Unless, of course, you're changing this to a complete lifestyle show, and then I'm
This is-
really out.
There
of,
is no
I'm-
lifestyle.
I'm really out of my realm then.
Well, I think today's economy, or with all the debacle of the mortgages, have forced people to get pre-approved. I don't think most realtors don't work with buyers unless they know how they're going to fund that house, whether it's cash
Right.
or it's a mortgage. And if it's a mortgage, I say, have you talked to a lender? And then which lender? And then we talk to the lender to find out what they can afford.
It's really a waste of everybody's time if you're not pre-approved, right?
Right.
Okay.
And we can start
So
them
if
out.
somebody calls you, is that the first thing you say? Get a price or what you're going to spend and get
Well, we'll talk
pre-approved?
about the house, and then we talk about where they are in the financial world. And if they haven't seen a lender, then I kind of back them into it so that they feel more comfortable. A lot of people are afraid to talk to lenders. A lot of calls I get on land contracts are people who are just afraid to go talk to a lender to see if they qualify for a mortgage. But I back them into it by saying how much you're paying in rent now. Are you comfortable with that? Can you go up? And then I tell them how much their mortgage amount would be, and or actually how much of a house they would qualify for based on what they're paying in rent, for example. I take out property taxes and insurance. And they're usually quite surprised with the low interest rates. They can afford a lot more home than they ever could before.
What about their credit score?
Well, then I send them a list of lenders that I like to work with, and I'm not a lender, so I don't even pretend to be. I do talk about their
But
credit
I'm just
score.
talking about as a real estate licensee, and this is true of the realtors that I teach. A good realtor, as you say, is not going to undertake to represent a buyer unless they know at the very outset that that buyer is going to qualify for X amount of dollars.
Right.
Because it's a complete waste of everybody's time.
And
you
do
don't
talk
want to
about
waste
credit
your
scores.
time. You have to make a living too.
Right. And and that's when you talk about working with professionals. You need to work with a full-time realtor. There is nothing easy about this world of real estate. Nothing. 1995 to 2005, it was easier, but not now.
What has made it so difficult?
Approval. I mean, your minimum credit score has got to be 640.
So the
People
banks.
don't have the money.
So the banks.
The banks have. People don't have the money they used to have. I think buyers, and this is a good thing, are being more cautious about jumping into a house.
Also, couples are more reluctant to just jump into a relationship. I don't know if you saw the news blurb the other day, but one of the factors now for young people dating, not just young people, all people dating, is not only their appearance and their personality, etc. But one of the things you want to ask a potential spouse
It's
is,
what is your credit score?
what is your credit score? Because
This is a
That
true
was on the
lifestyle show.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
That was on the Today Show this
That be-
morning.
because-
Was it?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, they talked about that.
because you marry somebody with a poor credit score,
Yeah.
it's going to drag you down.
You're
Big
going to
time.
suffer.
You're going to suffer immensely in terms of
Never
your
thought of that.
creditability. Yeah.
Credit
Yeah.
We could
score.
do credit, or we could do couple counseling. What's your credit score? You're not made for each other. You won't be able to buy a house.
But it's true that so many young people's credit scores, credit ratings are trashed right now because
They don't think about
they
it.
got credit cards, they didn't pay them on time, a variety of debts, student debts, those sorts of things, and their credit ratings are just trash.
But you could go, we're working with a young couple right now who they don't have the most stellar credit score, and they've gone to EECU, who will do 20% down. 20% down is not as much of a risk to a lender, so they'll work with, and maybe the other banks do too, but I'm just saying there are some options out there.
And then I don't know if Laura likes to hear this, but the bright spot in the market right now is the shift is away from home ownership to rental, and so investors buying properties that they then rent to tenants, that is growing, and that's a very, very good place to, very, very, very good part of the real estate market. Right
And I don't know where I heard this, I'm trying to remember, that interest rates may drop just a little bit more after the first of the year.
Wow.
After we
Before
decide-
too long, Greg, what's going to happen is the banks are going to pay you
No, yes.
in order to take loans from them. That's how low the rates are going.
Hey, you'll
Maybe
be
that's
gone
the
next
fiscal
week.
Cliff.
You'll be gone next week?
Yep.
3
I'm
weeks. 3 weeks will be gone.
So we will have a guest.
I'll be gone 3 weeks. How's that?
There you go.
Laura will be here. I'll be gone 3 weeks.
Anyhow, so tune in. That's all I have to say. 780-3800 is how you get a hold of me. And I need listings, so please call. And our website, 780-3800.com or thinkingrealestate.com.